Please can you remind me if you'll be so kind, staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? The purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I am your host, Lori LeBay, and I am thrilled that you can join us today. We're going to have a real interesting conversation about finances and dementia, because I know that weighs heavily on everybody's mind. But before we get started, I always like to give a shout out to organizations, and for our new listeners, tell them a little bit about us. So bottom line, Alzheimer Speaks got started because my mom lived with dementia for 30 years, and it was probably the biggest gift that I'll ever receive in my life in terms of making reframe how I looked at life and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with my life. And so here on Alzheimer Speaks, we want to raise everyone's voice. So for you listening, you could be our next guest. It doesn't make any difference if you are living with dementia, if you are caregiving for somebody, if you're a researcher, an advocate, a movie director, singer, songwriter, author, or we've had many, many businesses on who are really changing their philosophy and their care culture so that they can care better for both those living with dementia and their families. So again, thank you for listening. I hope that you will like, click, and share our episodes. We get listeners all around the world, and we'd like to continue spreading the word of our service here. We can also help companies expand their brand footprint by accessing all of our different platforms. We not only have the radio show, we've got a YouTube channel, a website, a blog. We do dementia quick tips and dementia chats, where a panel of experts living with the disease tell us what they like and what they need. And we'd love for you to check those out as well. So to start out, I want to give a shout out to Keith Gallus, who's an executive director with 20 years of experience under his belt, helping families with all their difficult questions. And he's written a book called Parental Dementia, a guide through all the difficult questions, where every chapter answers a different question. And these questions are the ones he gets most from families. And you can purchase his book by going to Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, or you can go directly to parentaldementia.com. That's parentaldementia.com. And he's been so kind for all of our listeners to get a discount. All you have to do is put in the code Lori, Lori. That's Lori, Lori, as a discount code, and you will save $5.99. The book is also available now as an ebook, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Who's up next here? Oh, our friends, Dr. Mary Kay Ross and Carrie Mills, who is a brain health coach, and patient liaison with the Brain Health and Research Institute, emailed me last night. And, they are just doing some fascinating work. We had them on the show before, and they are really analyzing people on a real holistic level. So they're looking at their blood and what's that's telling them. They're looking at their lifestyle, their food choices, sleep habits, the whole 9 yards, and they are having some dramatic changes in people's cognitive situations. So you can reach them by just going to brainhealthandresearch.com. That's brainhealthandresearch.com. Check them out. And again, you might want to listen to our prior episode with them. I think you'll find it fascinating. Also, yesterday, I was talking to my friends with Ling Bloomston, and they are here in Minnesota. They've been around for, I think, over 100 years in St. Paul, and they are now building a brand new campus in Lino Lakes, which is really cool. And they have a couple of presentations coming up, one on Wednesday the 12th, which is tomorrow, and one on Thursday, February the 20th. That one's going to be an evening one from 6:30 to 8. The Wednesday one will be from 10 to 11:30. And check them out if you're looking for a continuum of care and like the Lino Lakes area. You can go to lyngbloomston.org, and that's lyngbloomston.org, or you can call 651-646-2941. That's 651-646-2941. And then on the 19th, I'm excited because I'm going to be doing a webinar, which is a virtual road trip that Educate has put together. And our topic is going to be on Dementia Care is Changing Are You? And that's going to be February 19th at 1 p.m. Central. You can find more information at alzheimerspeaks.com. And then also on February 20th, that evening, I am going to be at the Waters of Eden Prairie. And there we're going to be doing a program called Shifting Dementia Care from Crisis to Comfort. And that's going to be kind of a networking for professionals in education where they get a CEU from 3 to 5. And that, again, is the Waters of Eden Prairie, February 20th from 3 to 5. And if you are a professional here in Minnesota, Handy Medical Supply does this massive conference every year. And I am just thrilled that I'm going to be speaking at that. And that's going to be on the 21st, February 21st. And it's an all-day conference. I'll be speaking about 9:45 to 10:45. But if you, and this is for business professionals only, we would love to have you join us. And I'm getting through. I'm like halfway through. I can't believe how many announcements there are today. Let's see. Then March 16th, I'll be out at the Waters of White Bear Lake. We're going to be doing a program, Shifting Our Dementia Care Culture, and that's going to be from 5 to 6 for families. And on March 27th, my good friend, Jennifer Fitzpatrick, who is just an absolute wonderful speaker, just full of knowledge, is going to be at Artist Senior Living in Woodbury. And she's going to be doing an educational program from 8:30 to 10:30 with Artist Senior Living of Woodbury. And then let's see, I'm going to be out at Artist Senior Living, and I'm going to be in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, March 31st, and be doing a program for families in the evening. And then on April 1st, I'll be doing a program for professionals. So again, you can go to Artist Senior Living and find out more information. It's Artist Senior Living of Yardley for the events. And then the last one I'm going to note is Winona Dementia Friendly Communities is doing almost like a week-long educational fair, and I'm going to be down there April 2nd and showing the movie called A Timeless Love, where we'll have a talk back and things afterwards. And all of these events you can find on my website at alzheimerspeaks.com. So that took up tons of time there, and I am going to get on with our guest because this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So Jenevieve Lenz is a wealth management advisor, and she works for one of the leading providers of integrated financial wellness for professionals and women business owners in Northern Virginia. And her goal is really to educate and empower her clients by talking about their balance sheet and how to protect that and maximize cash flow during their working years and also their retirement years while planning for life's health concerns as we age. So this ties in really well because this is a big topic in the world of dementia. So welcome, Jenevieve. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. It's the sun is outside, and it's not too bad in Minnesota right now. It's like 30 degrees, so it makes us feel like we don't even have to wear a coat, when it's
well,
like
I wish you'd send some of your snow down to us because we could really use some in Virginia. My kids are asking for snow. We've had a very light winter.
Oh, wow. We just had about 5 inches earlier this week, and we're supposed to get dumped on again on Thursday. So time will tell, but it's nice and bright and beautiful out here with the fresh snow. So we'll try to send it your way. You're east from me, so there's a good chance you could get it. That's for sure. To get started with, I always like to ask everybody if they have been personally touched in their own family circle or sphere of friends and influencers by dementia.
As a matter of fact, yes, we are going through that right now. I have the blessing of having a 94-year-old grandmother who is still living with us, and she does have dementia. So she's in an assisted living home near my aunt in Ohio, and she has wonderful care. So we feel very blessed that we've found a location that works for her, that works for us. The meals, all the way down to the service, are working really well for our family. So it wasn't always the case, but we've landed in a good spot.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Do you want to give that place a plug? You're more than welcome to if you'd like to, because people always like to get references.
Right. So the House of Loretto, I don't really know much about it because she was in another home in New York before this one. So she's only been there about a little over a year. House of Loretto is located in Canton, Ohio, and it is a religious-based community. So I know there's other communities like this out there. I have not done all the research myself. We usually provide support, which is sometimes monetary, certainly, cards, letters, phone calls, FaceTime. We're constantly, visiting with her in those capacities to keep her abreast of what's going on with the children and the great-grandchildren. But as far as the monetary and the physical choices that my aunt has to make, she has the power of attorney. So she was lucky enough to do research and found this wonderful place for her grandmother.
Wonderful. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. People always appreciate that, and everybody always has to do their own research because what works for one might not work for another. But it's just nice to hear that something's working for a family because sometimes we don't hear that, I think, as much as we need to. Let's talk about trends in the financial industry and what is affecting most seniors and retirees today.
Well, there's quite a number of things that are affecting seniors today. I would say, first in all, there's a lot going on with the political environment. We see a lot with the corporate environment, obviously shrinking employer-sponsored pensions. There's very few companies that still offer some kind of defined benefit or pension plan, so that's not as prevalent as it once was. There are some talks about, Social Security cuts. What is that going to look like as the next generation gets older? I think as far as the baby boomers are concerned, they're pretty much set. They've locked that in. But after they all roll through and receive Social Security, we're concerned about what the future looks like. So there could be, cuts, and I'm talking, probably for people in their 40s or younger, not certainly anybody that's eminently going to receive their Social Security check, in the next 10, 15 years. Low savings rates. We've always had a historically low savings rate as a country, right? We're a consumer nation. We like to buy, and spend. So I think that that's starting to finally tick up. We used to have a negative savings rate, actually, and where China and other countries around the world had a positive. Sometimes, 10, 20, 25% of their earnings would go to savings. Our country's not known for that. So we're seeing more people being diligent and putting money away in savings, both, savings that's in your bank, CDs and savings accounts, but also retirement and investment accounts. We're seeing more people being diligent and funding those as well. Some of the other trends, people are just working longer. They're choosing to work longer because they like their occupation. If you're a consultant, a realtor, small business owners especially, there's CPAs, doctors, attorneys, they're working well into their 70s because they really don't know what else they would do with their time. Their passion is their small company, their job. It's usually a service industry in many cases. Some of my clients, they're working well into their 80s. God bless them if they have the health and the mind to do so. They just really enjoy being an active part of the community. So that's a trend that we see with healthy seniors, and also women. Women are more involved in the employment and the workforce. So if their earnings are good, then they want to keep working as well. Nobody wants to necessarily pull the plug at age 65 or 66 and then play golf 7 days a week. So, these trends that they're working longer, hopefully to save a little bit more and be more diligent, it keeps them healthy, keeps them active longer. This is certainly a lot of the trends that we're seeing today.
Well, and I think some of that comes from, they want to work and they want to keep active, and the other is like, oh my gosh, we're living a heck of a lot longer too, so I need more money to do, to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I want, and yet in a lot of those businesses too, sometimes with self-employed people, they don't tuck away as much money as maybe somebody whose company has been assisting them in that process and stuff too. I know I saw that with many in real estate in my day, and there was all ranges. Don't get me wrong with that, but again, it's something a little bit different in terms of flavor in life, and I think you're right. I think the passion is definitely there in those positions and what keeps them there. What are some of your clients doing to kind of prepare for their retirement years? And are they talking about the possibility of a healthcare crisis that might knock on their door?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that makes sense. So one thing I mentioned is that clients are being more diligent as far as putting savings away, right, during their peak working years. So we have conversations when they come in about what's the appropriate percentage based on what they're earning to be saving. Some people, started out at 5% and they're moving up towards, 8, 9, 10. If you have two spouses working, it's feasible that the household's saving, more than 15% of their income. Which is great. We really want to see that 15 to 20% savings rate as a target. And I jokingly say, there's always loans for college, there's loans for second houses, there's loans for a lot of things, but you can't just pull out a loan and say, I need a loan for retirement. There's no such thing. I remember when I was sitting in the Schwab office when I used to work there, and this gentleman came in. He was 58 years of age. And he was so proud of the fact that he put 4 kids through college. And then tongue-in-cheek, he kind of joked and said, "Yeah, I know I'll be working till I'm 75 or 80, because I wanted to put my kids through college." So he knew he was behind. He knew he should have saved more, but at that point in his life, he wanted to not have his kids have student loan debt. So it's getting to people and in enough time when they're still working in their peak years, 40s, 50s. And saying, look, let's analyze where your cash flow is going. Let's make sure that you're not putting it all towards kids that really can get grants and student loans and not save for your retirement at the risk of not having enough. Taking risk off the table, that's another key point. A lot of people may be invested in this market. We're into the 11th year of a bull market. So if they haven't sat down and either themselves or with an advisor said, look, I think that maybe I should take some risk off the table. I'm probably going to need this money. That would be a really good time now in 2020 to do that. A third thing is that a lot of clients are, like we said, working a little bit longer, so they might delay taking some of their retirement savings in preparation of living a longer life. And certainly healthcare costs going up, they're going to say, well, I'm going to work a little longer, suck a little bit more away, especially if they have entrepreneurial pursuits. Maybe they start a second job. Maybe they just do some consulting part-time. I have a couple of clients that do seasonal work, right? They are retired for 6 months of the year, but they both love to ski and they love the national parks. So they go out and volunteer and get paid to work, serving in our national park system or skiing. And so therefore they're working 6 months in something that they love. It's a hobby, but they're able to store that income or save it up for, the potential cost that healthcare is going to be when they're in their late 70s or 80s. Another thing, clients are also looking to use more hybrid products. You said, what are they doing to best prepare for retirement? Well, some of them are not putting all their eggs in one basket, maybe not buying a standalone long-term care policy. Even if dementia or Alzheimer's runs in their family, they're looking for more creative ways to kind of spread that around and make sure that their money's going towards a product or a service that's going to be there regardless of what their senior years look like. So sometimes that's, permanent life insurance with long-term care riders on it, right? So you have both in one basket. Teaching the clients how to save in these different vehicles and utilize what the baby boomers are basically demanding. I mean, they're demanding these things, and so products and things have been redesigned to best suit their needs, right? No longer are we dealing with the old products that are 20, 30 years ago, and some of them were just horrible. There's a lot of new things out there that seniors can draw upon, giving guidance, sitting with the right advisor, and really kicking the can around, saying, okay, what's out there? Do I know about this? Do I know about that? Can I spend some more time researching ways to save and prepare for retirement that it's really going to maximize the cash flow that I have? And that's going to be key.
Those are wonderful ideas, and I love that, looking for a hobby that you can get paid to do, so that you can enjoy kind of both ends of the spectrum there. I think that's something that a lot of people don't even think about. They kind of think in these silos. It's either a hobby or it's a job, but there are positions out there where you can get a little bit of both, and planning for that future, I think is so extremely important. How about Social Security and pension, and optimizing that in your retirement? There's so much chatter out there about, will it be around, and is it going to be effective, and what do you tell people on that?
Yeah, that's a huge one, right? So we already know that Social Security and pension planning can make a huge difference, right? That's a given. And I think sometimes clients don't realize just how important setting down and having a plan is. I think some people just march right into the Social Security office and say, oh, I'm here to collect my check, and they haven't really given a thought as to when they're taking it, how they're taking it, especially if they're married. Maybe both of you don't claim at 63 or 64 or even 65. You wait a little bit longer so that your check is actually going to be higher. I would assume that it's common knowledge by now, but maybe not the case, that everybody has a statement, right? And they used to mail them out. They don't anymore, but you can go on the Social Security .gov website and download your statement pretty easily, or have a young whippersnapper that's really good on the internet do that for you if you can't do it yourself. But the bottom line is, when you go on there, they're going to give you 3 ratings, right? They're going to say, if you take it at 62, it's going to be this. If you take it at 65 or 66 or even 67, if that's your full retirement age, it's this. And oh, by the way, if you wait till 70, it's this. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take it at 62, 66, and 70. But if you notice the statement, those are big numbers. Those numbers are going to change quite a bit. So my goal with the clients that I'm working with is really trying to look at the family history, right? Number one is you have to know your family history. It plays a large part in how you're going to decide when you should take these things. If you have a family longevity and your parents and grandparents are living into their 90s with little health issues, chances are you'd probably want to maybe think about delaying taking that Social Security check, right? Or, in the case of a history of dementia or heart disease or even cancer, if something like that is prevalent in your family history, then maybe you think about not delaying it to 70 to get that extra 8% per year increase. Maybe taking it right on time, or, I hate to say early, because you take a haircut by taking it early. Mm-hmm. I think everyone should know that. It's an 8% decrease per year. But really having a plan, not just going out there and taking it, but knowing what your personal longevity looks like. What does your personal health look like, right? And having a trusted partner, some kind of advisor. I know that I'm not the only one out there that can do an analysis for clients that gives them an idea. Okay, when's the best time to take Social Security? Right, that's going to be huge. And the pension plan, it's the same thing. They're going to give you choices as to, do you take it solo based on one life? Do you take it based on the life of you and your spouse? And how should these things be turned on, so to speak, and when they should be turned on? That's going to be key, because if you're not optimizing the 2 pensions that you have, if you have a pension and your Social Security for you and your spouse, then you might be significantly reducing the cash flow that you have in those years when you need it most. And we see that. We see people sometimes making mistakes, and they'll come back and say, oh, gosh, I wish I spoke to you 10 years ago, or I wish, I had this conversation 15 years ago, before they pulled the trigger and basically did something that they regret. So, and it goes into what you said a little bit more about when you're optimizing the Social Security and really doing an analysis as to when is the best age, right? Maybe it's 67 and a half, right? Maybe it's 68. There's some tools. I know there's some on AARP has a Social Security optimization tool that's out there. Several other websites have these tools where you can kind of plug in the data. But working with an advisor that can help and guide you through that is key, because if you're delaying it even by a year, that's giving you that extra what if money, right? That extra wiggle room, that what if money for medical expenses. And when you're planning a long-term budget and living on a fixed retirement income, that really can be a key driver. Right? I don't know if you've looked at some of the cash flow of taking Social Security at, say, 67 versus 69, but that could be a difference of, say, $500 to $600 a month, which doesn't seem like a lot, right? It's about $7,500 or $7,200 a year, but then multiply that from age 65 to age 85, you'd be giving up about $175,000 just in Social Security alone. So I can't stress that enough. Don't just jump up and sign up for Social Security without having some kind of analysis on yourself and your longevity to know when is the right time to really take it.
I think that's really good advice, and there's so many places, like you said, to go. They can talk to their financial advisor. A lot of times, companies have meetings preparing people kind of for their exit and what they're going to do and when they're going to take their funds. And I know even the library and AARP. I mean, there's tons and tons of resources out there. And I was just meeting. I'm 60. I just got together with a bunch of, this was funny, I'm going to say kids from high school. We're all adults, many times over. But we were sitting around talking about retirement, and one gal was giving advice to another and said, don't just go to one. She's like, I go to every single one that's out there. She's like, and I always walk away with a nugget. She's like, get educated. She's like, you would believe the difference in the impact it can make. And I mean, she was just so passionate about that, and she's like, be smart about it. And I think that's really, really good advice. You can never learn too much information, I don't think.
I agree with you. I cannot stress that enough. I tell people, and we do seminars here in Northern Virginia. Sometimes they're on podcast or even recorded, right? There's webinars, so that's something we can share. But you cannot have enough information, and it gives you the ability to go in and, like you said, grab a nugget from this event, grab one from here, and then you have all this information. Then you feel so empowered, and you feel like when you finally have to make that decision on whether it's when to take your pension or Social Security or whatever it is, that you have the knowledge to make the right decision. That decision feels so much more better for yourself and for your family because you went out and you got educated. So yeah, I'm a big believer in education. There's no such thing as enough, right? So.
Yeah. Well, and like Mickey was saying too, she said, you're going to be in a different mindset. You're going to have different knowledge every time you go, and the picture's going to look a little bit different. And so, she's like, I've been doing this for years now. She's like, I've got my time frame set, and it might change, but this is my target. She's like, but if rules change, I might change too, and that's okay. And she's just staying real fluid with that, but very, very knowledgeable about what's out there. What other ways can like you talked about family history kind of having an impact, on one's life projection, and again, just because somebody has dementia in their family doesn't mean they're going to get it, but it is something to consider. So how do you really, I guess, guide people in terms of diving into health situations? Do you suggest that they talk with their doctor and see what they say from an odds standpoint? And again, I know it's a crapshoot, with all of this.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you should say that because we can say it's a crapshoot, but I also believe, because a lot of my clients are in the medical profession or in some related profession, that we really do have control, regardless of genetics, right, as to how we're going to age. So one of the things I say to my clients, and I don't have to say it that often because they're usually already on the right path, but pay attention to your health, right? It sounds pretty simple, but put a healthy lifestyle ahead of a lot of the other things that we do. And by living a healthy lifestyle, you're going to reduce the chance of health complications and hopefully those costly bills in retirement. So a big key for most people that I speak to is going for that annual checkup. And, women are more likely to go for their checkups than men, but go talk to your doctor, and don't forget the dentist. I mean, having that reasonable diet and fitness regime, I think, there's enough science out there that proves that, certainly having your fruits and vegetables and extra glasses of water, and it's all over the news, things that you should do to live a healthy life. And then the dentist is a huge one, because we all know that going to the dentist, some things that we have or that we might be developing, it shows up in our mouth or our teeth first, right? This cardiovascular disease, that shows up in your gums first, right? So lots of those things, like just going for a regular checkup, and if you don't feel right, you may not want to see more than one doctor, right? Maybe you have a family doctor, but maybe they just kind of go through the run-of-the-mill checkups. So what I do with my family, what my extended family and even a lot of my clients do, is we might go see a holistic doctor, right? Somebody that might run different tests than your regular MD. Maybe they're going to check you for, vitamin D levels or vitamin B, or they'll do different wellness exams, even cognitive exams, all kinds of things, right? Muscle testing. I mean, there's so many things that are out there that can be done to help you either kind of direct your course, right? So you're going this way, and then you want to redirect it towards a healthier path, so you're aging in a more healthy way. So that's one of the things that I chit chat with clients when they come in, especially as their concerns go up as they're approaching 60s and certainly into the 70s, as to what is aging going to look like. And then we talk about getting resources before they need them, right? So if they're starting to feel like they're on that slippery slope and, my memory's failing, and we kind of laugh about it, but maybe it's dementia, maybe it's not, maybe it's just old age, right? But there's a lot of those comments being made. Well, before it becomes something else, get the resources. Visit the Alzheimer's Foundation of America and take a memory test, right? You can log in, and there's simple memory tests that are online. There's all kinds of centers. I have a friend here that's in Virginia locally, and she's a dementia consultant. And she has parents, of course, father, mother, who have gone through it. And she goes out and speaks in the community, just like what you said, going to these resources, these events. I know there's some up in Minnesota, and they're out there just talking to the public about, well, what is it like to make some course corrections in health, introducing a positive approach and hands-on approach to aging with some of the challenges, right, with if there's dementia in the family, or as you start to feel like you're cognitively declining. There's just an inordinate amount of resources out there. So you and your spouse, family members, you want to start to tap into those before you think you really need them, before it becomes an emergency. And then, unfortunately, maybe somebody else is making those decisions for you, and you didn't have a say as to what that looks like for yourself. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm big too with medical and holistic picture, and like you said, looking at lifestyle change. I mean, they have the finger study that really points to how much control we have over our bodies and the different things that we can do now to help. And again, and nothing's a guarantee in life, but the better you line up your ducks, the straighter line you're going to be, and the better chance you're going to have. So I think those are all really, really good things to consider.
Lori, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sorry. So have you heard of anything about trying to do daily tasks and things that you normally do one way, and to find a way to do them differently that will create new brain synapses? Like your brain is now having to rethink a task. Like, let's just say brushing your teeth, right? If you always brush with your right hand, well, switch your hand and try to do it with your left. Now, granted, it's going to be really awkward, and you probably don't want to do that permanently, but I see people doing some of those things, right? If you always use the mouse for your computer with the right hand, well, put it in your left hand and that makes your brain have to create new synapses because your body's doing something different than it did, right? If you always leave your house and you walk to the post office going one way, one route, well, then maybe you leave your house and you take a different route, to the post office if you walk there. So just those little things that are just small tweaks but can be so meaningful for brain health and development as we age. Have you researched or heard anything about those types of things?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of work on that. And in fact, I have a good friend, Dale Anderson, who's a doctor. But he talks about, and he has the gene for dementia, for Alzheimer's disease. But he really says, your genes aren't your destiny. So one of the things that I love that he and Annie did, his wife, was they would brush their teeth and they would stand on one foot and they brush with the opposite hand. They'd go out for dinner, and instead of deciding on the wine ahead of time, they would have the waiter pick the wine, and then he and Annie would try to guess what the wine was,
Oh,
and they
wow.
would make games out of different things. And again, there's no guarantee that is going to fend off or totally push away dementia altogether. But it just makes life a little more exciting, and it gets you thinking a little better. I've got another friend who she's so funny. She is doing some home health care on the side from her regular job, and she loves it. But she says, you know what, I want to stay strong. And so she is working on her core muscle. She's like, because I don't want to have somebody lift me on and off the toilet. And,
Yeah.
from doing that, she says, I love caring for these people. She's like, but for me, I know I can prevent some of that stuff by staying strong in my core. And so, that's what she's, how she's kind of viewing things, doing things differently. And, there's some memory games out there. There's one called the Roberto app. And if you go to my website, alzheimerspeaks.com, on the home page, there is a side banner, I believe, on there for Roberto, and you can actually test it out free, or you can get a discount if you decide to subscribe. But it's a video game that you can play, and it measures different parts of your brain. And so with some of it, you'll have to actually be able to stand up and sit down to interact with some of the games and things. And then others are, are questions, but there's all different types of things. And it tracks your brain. So I've had friends that, do this on a daily basis. Some do it once a week. And they're tracking where it's at. They're actually bringing this system into schools and into corporations. So I'll give you an example of even a child, how this worked. He was doing great on his scores, and then one day he just crashed. And the teacher pulled him aside and said, what's going on in your life? And what happened was the boy's family was struggling financially, and they were going to get their electric and gas turned off.
Wow.
So he was so stressed out. So the teacher ended up connecting with the parents, got them some support, and then his scores went right back up. But so many things affect our cognitive ability. Other people with dementia are doing this, and they can tell when they're going to have a good day or a bad day by the test, just by doing the test before things, before their day really gets off. Or they'll, take it later in the day and go, oh, that's why things weren't connecting today, for me. And again, it doesn't mean you're going to plateau once your score dips. It just, it just means you're not connecting for whatever reason. And so I think our brain is really fluid, and not that we don't have stages, where we dip and stay when it comes to cognitive abilities. But I think sometimes people see that too black and white. For example, I was asked when I started the memory cafes, I was actually told by some people, well, you have to take a cognitive test and assess everybody. And I said, I'm not going to. And they're like, well, you have to. And I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm not going to, because I saw my mom have bad moments, just like I have bad moments. I might be moody, or I might be happy, or, or my memory might not be that great either. But that happens to all of us throughout our lives. When it really gets dysfunctional and really disrupts our day, that's when it becomes an issue. And so I think we have to be really careful not to judge the moment, be conscious of it. But, it doesn't mean life is over. And sometimes people just kind of jump off the cliff, because a lot of our medical professionals have kind of set them up for that, because they're not given a lot of hope, and they're not they're not getting people the resources they need. And so, to me, we have to really get to the doctors to educate people more so that they can educate their clients, that are worried about this stuff, because there's a ton of resources out there. And like I said, one of them, that I mentioned earlier is out in Seattle, and they're just doing fascinating work. And they're having really, really good results. The Brain Health and Research Institute, and they're taking a whole different approach because they're taking a holistic approach, towards the disease. And so, yeah, I think it's really important, to try different things and, keep that mind busy and keep an open mind as well, with the whole thing. So very, very important. Thanks for bringing that up. Are there any final tips or advice that you'd like to give our listeners?
Sure. I think there's a couple things that we want to just make sure that people are thinking about as they are doing their planning. There's some resources out there that are worth noting and using as you plan for your future. One of those is going to be finding out who the Medicare specialist is in your state. We have some here locally, but they will help you navigate when and how and if, Medicare supplements are an option. I know there's a lot of change going on in that industry. So one of the websites that I will send clients to is www.medicareportal.org. That can be very instrumental. Once again, it's medicareportal.org. If that's a question of yours, we already said earlier that Social Security optimization is key. I'm happy to answer questions on that if you want to email me after the show, and we can talk about it. But there's also, like we said, on the aarp.org website, if you log in there, there's a Social Security benefit calculator that you can run on yourself from the comfort of your home. So that's certainly a good resource. Also looking to have a complimentary retirement consult, right, with somebody in your area or somebody like me. If you go to my online website, there's a link that you can click on and book a complimentary consult if you're interested to know more about the different resources that I use for clients, in addition to, obviously, the Medicare specialist, the Social Security, but just getting to know what your state guide is, right? Each state has a different guide when it comes to products like long-term care insurance. There's a consumer guide. I know that Virginia publishes one. I know the Carolinas do. Basically, some of these guides that are published by the state, they help people understand definitions, coverage. They're great tools to speak to the consumer in usually easy to understand language. So we can help you try to find the right guide for your state so you can do some of that research we were talking about earlier, right? Education is key. And then also just making sure when you're sitting down with your investment professional, look at the long-term risk in your savings, right? Will your investments take a hit when the market may take a dip like it did in 2008? Are you poised to weather any kind of financial hiccup, financial storm? And will your investments basically be there to help support your long-term health care costs? One of the things we look at is making sure that the clients have their long-term buckets of money designed to produce cash flow, right? It's not enough just to have wonderful stocks and wonderful investments that have appreciated, but are they actually designed to spin off cash flow from dividends and from other resources? And that's going to help you protect from downside because that cash flow is going to be coming in and will certainly be there to help support long-term health care costs that we know are going up. There's no way for them to go up but up. Unfortunately, and then, dementia costs, that's rising. There's just a lot of costs that we have to be mindful of, and we want to make sure that all your hard-earned cash and things that you have done to protect yourself are not wasted, and, they are optimized the best possible ways.
Wonderful. Now, one of the questions I do want to ask you, too, because I think that this is important, and I see someone was interested in this as well, and that is, do you recommend building a team? So having a a wealth manager, advisor, an accountant, and elder law attorney. So everybody's talking the same piece and working together for your best interest.
Absolutely. It's 100% how I operate here in Virginia. So we have a very unique and wonderful company. It's an independent company, so which is why I like working for First Financial. So there's not a lot of product pushing per se that sometimes goes on in the financial industry, and everything we do is meant to be integrated. So we can, if somebody's starting to work with me or any number one of our partners, we have the complete ability and authority to pull in other partners as needed. So I'm constantly talking to my clients' CPAs. That means like once a year we're at least checking in and making sure that the taxes are being handled correctly. If they have a business attorney, an elder law attorney, an estate planning attorney, those people are being looped into the meetings and conversations. And there's just, I would say, at least 3, if not 4 professionals, CPA and estate planning attorney being the most common. But we also will have meetings with, doctors or Medicare specialists. Or I have a really good friend who's a hospice director, and sometimes you're getting pulled in and using resources that are not as common as, say, the CPA or the estate planning attorney. So 100% of the time you should have a team approach. If you didn't have one, it would be like going to one doctor for angina, another doctor for heart disease, another doctor for, something wrong with your foot doctor, and they're all prescribing a prescription, and before you know it, you're taking 6 or 7 different medications, and you have no idea how those are going to work together. Well, finance is very much the same way. You want to take a holistic approach. You want your financial people to be talking to each other, and you can have the best possible outcome.
Wonderful. Well, I think that is great advice. I know when I was helping my folks plan, we did that, and it just made it so much easier for everybody to know one another and for them to be able to communicate between themselves without me always having to be present, giving them permission to be able to figure out, best modes and then approach me on that. It saved me a lot of time and energy and angst in all of that. Yeah. And I felt like I had a kind of an army behind me, which was really
I would
nice.
say, Lori, that is amazing that you felt that way, because that's how people should feel, right? They have the power of many. And one of the key things that I talk to clients about, and this is not common, I think, in the financial industry, but all of my clients have an estate plan if they're working with us, right? They might not come in with an estate plan, which basically outlines, okay, if you're going down that slippery slope and your health is declining, we want to know that you've already put your wills, your trust, your medical power of attorney, your financial power of attorney. All those things should be set up well before you're aging, and then they should be reviewed, right? So if you did the last review more than 10 years ago, it's time to take another look. It's time to do updates to those documents because the law changed a lot. And, then 9 or 10 years down the road, it's time to do another update, even if it's nothing but just changing signatures and the date's going to matter. Maybe the core document doesn't change, but you just want to slap a new date and a signature on there because the court system, the medical system, they will disregard things if they feel that it's too old and it's not up to the latest letter of the law. So staying on top of your estate planning is going to help all the relatives or anyone who's in charge of your care in later years as well.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, I just so appreciate your time that you spent with us today. I think this has been absolutely fabulous. And again, people, don't be scared to venture out and protect your own interests. This is really an important matter. Know that there is no dumb question. If you don't have the answer, you need to ask, because nobody's a mind reader out there, and there's plenty of people that want to help. And feel free to, go to get more than one person's opinion too, because I'm a firm believer, especially when I sold real estate for 25 years, I would tell people, interview several people, because you want to not only feel that the person has knowledge, but that they can work well with you and your personality. And just because Aunt Betty referred you to this person, that person might be perfect for Aunt Betty and her personality, but it might not be a good fit for you. And so listen to your gut and let that guide you. make sure that you find a person who understands your needs and your perspectives and is respectful of those things as well. And that'll make it a much easier, friendly journey. And you're going to be feeling more like you're dealing with friends than just some consultant on the side that's a business professional. And I think when you're dealing with these big areas like this, when you're talking your financial stability, you want somebody that you really feel not only confident in but comfortable with. And that's just my 2 cents. You may think totally opposite of that, and that's okay. That's what we're here to discuss here on Alzheimer Speaks Radio. We think everybody's opinion is a good one. So with that, did that trigger any other last thoughts for you? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show, Jenevieve.
Well, I would say that I agree with what you just said about I run into that. People are taking investment advice from their friend at the golf course, another relative, and before you know it, they are jumping in with both feet to something that was completely inappropriate for their situation. So yes, I would concur going out and interviewing and finding out what's best for you, and certainly talking to at least 2 individuals, if not 3, before jumping into a product or service is usually a wise thing to do, because sometimes you're going to run across people that are more interested in selling a product than your financial wellness long term, and you want to figure out who that is before you're unfortunately invested long term. So yes, do your research.
Yeah, and when you interview with that many people too, I think you become more savvy, more stuff sticks. Anyways, it does for me. Sometimes it doesn't always stick the first time, even if I'm, taking notes in the whole 9 yards, or just hearing it in somebody else's tone and with their verbiage, it might resonate with me a little bit more. And I think those are important things to keep on top of. So again, comfort and confidence in whoever it is that you choose to work with is critical. And don't be afraid to ask for references from past clients as well. And if they can't give you that, that should be a red flag as well on that. So people can get a hold of Jenevieve by phone at 571-375-8040. Again, that's 571-375-8040, or you can go and email her at genevieve.lenz@ffgadvisors.com, and we've got that on the radio page for you. You can just click on that, or you can go to the website ffgadvisors.com/Genevieve-Lenz. And again, both are on the blog and the website to make it easy for you. So again, thank you all so much for listening today. And I hope that you like, click, and share and pass this episode along. Even though Jenevieve might not be in your state, she could probably help you connect with somebody in your own state if you're not able, if you're not able to know how to do that. She's in Northern Virginia, and this is a critical thing that we all need to think lots about and seriously. So thanks again, Jenevieve, and have a blessed week.
You too. Thanks, Lori. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and bless everyone on the call today.
Wonderful. And listen in for our next show. We're going to be talking with Dietrich Niesen, and we're going to be talking about legacy videos. And I can't wait for that. That'll be on Thursday. Bye now, everyone.
Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.